My name is Vincent. I'm from City of Hope, and I'm going to be presenting on LabKey and how we've used it for our ORIEN Informatics project. And ORIEN stands for Oncological Research Information Exchange Network. It's a project that falls under our big initiative at City of Hope, Precision Medicine. And I'm going to be explaining those pieces a little downstream. So I have Omar up here. Originally I was supposed to present this piece with Omar. He's not with us. He's busy, so I'm presenting on our behalf. So just a little overview. Let me use this real quick here. Just an overview over the 30 minutes while I try to keep you guys up from eating lunch. We're gonna talk about City of Hope and ORIEN, how we decided to adopt LabKey, some of the lessons that we learned in our process, and leave some time for Q&A at the end. So City of Hope and ORIEN. City of Hope is a national medical center. We are a national cancer institute. And what that means is we have a hospital and we have clinical research that happens simultaneously. Some of the big things that we do include CAR T cell therapies, diabetes, and precision medicine. Fun fact, City of Hope was the place where Humulin was discovered. So that's a little fun fact about City of Hope. And to explain precision medicine a little more, so it's been a big buzzword, precision medicine, in recent years. And precision medicine is an emerging approach to disease treatment and prevention, where we take into account variability in genes and the environment and the lifestyle of patients. So today we have generally a one-size-fits-all approach, where one treatment for a certain patient that has a certain disease, and then best outcomes, we have an improved outcome. Sometimes we have no benefits, and worst, we have adverse side effects. But with precision medicine, we really have the ability to understand the genomics, the environment, and population health data from patients, specifically cancer patients at City of Hope. We can really utilize big data and analyze it to choose personalized treatments. And so one of those pieces is CAR T therapies, where we're targeting certain mutations in tumor specimens for patients. So we have generally we want to improve outcomes and reduce the side effects. Now, I talked about ORIEN already, and I'm going to reiterate. ORIEN stands for Oncological Research Information Exchange Network, and that's a lot to explain. The 19 other institutions that span across the nation. With the other institutions, we share the data amongst patients, and we are able to match those patients to clinical trials that are not located in just one place, right? So we have over 100,000 patients who are consented to this protocol, where we gain clinical and genomic data from their tumor specimens. And City of Hope is the third institution to join the consortium. So we had to lead a lot of the pieces. The protocol that allows for us to do this is the Total Cancer Care Protocol. This protocol allows for us to follow the patient throughout their life and gain information, pick specimens from surgical resections and other procedures in the hospitals, and use those leftover specimens to study their tumors with molecular technology, various molecular technologies. And this is where the researchers really come in, where they run Sentinel pipelines and other pipelines to analyze genomic and sequencing data. And then within the lifespan of a patient, we maintain ongoing contact with these patients, so that we are getting updated information on physical assessments, updated information on diagnoses. Maybe they've had a cancer that metastasized to a different place, and we want to collect this information. So more of a visual diagram. For the protocol, over time, as I've mentioned, we want to collect their specimens. And from the specimen, we gather their molecular data. And throughout their life, we gain their longitudinal clinical data. Now, the whole purpose in collecting this data, right, is to match patients to clinical trials. And in our operations, we really have to find patients that are eligible for these clinical trials. So we identify patients, we have to identify a specimen that might match a criterion, abstract clinical data from the electronic health records, and lastly, sequence the data from these tumors. So within our research operations, our main goal is to really have our users navigate this aspect, right? ORIEN at City of Hope it runs more in a research operations format, and we have clinical research coordinators who are going out to the labs and the doctor's offices to consent these patients. We have specimen coordinators who are going through pathology reports and looking for nuggets of information where a certain tumor has a large enough size where we can actually have enough DNA or RNA to do analysis on. And then lastly, we have data analysts who really help in this process. And there are two components to this. So with this aspect, we have clinical data, and then we have genomic data, and on top of that, it's a whole nother pipeline. It's a whole nother process. We have to broker the data to the end users, our end users being research scientists, data scientists, and other third parties who are interested in the information. Now, those are a lot of steps in the operations, and you know, we don't really like to go to multiple platforms and go through multiple clicks. You know, we go through patient identification, going to Epic, or in EHR system, going to a clinical trial management system and doing it manually. Go through more clicks to identify specimens and pathology reports and CoPath Plus, and we have to abstract data on our lovely REDCap and Allscripts. So there's a ton of clicks everywhere, and we want to navigate the data in a better fashion. So, you know, we have Excel that we pull from SQL Server, and more Excels, and more Excels. And we're really trying to get these Excel sheets, these spreadsheets out to the users so that they can take action on their work. But what about PHI? What about permissions? Quality control, auditing, collaboration? There's a ton of questions that researchers don't really think about too much. They just, you know, they want to focus on their grants and not about the administrative pieces. So really, for my researchers out there, here's a little graph. As time went on, we saw the amount of headaches grow exponentially. The struggle is real. And it wasn't real anymore once we found LabKey. The struggles still... You got it. The struggles exist, but they're not as bad. And LabKey really, you know, we use LabKey to look at the EHR, look at different pieces and disparate data sources to make sure our research operations run smoothly. So, you know, we knew that the EHR data goes into the EDW. EDW stands for Enterprise Data Warehouse, where there are multiple research applications dumping their data in a tabular format into our SQL Server shop at City of Hope. And some of the things that we're looking for specimen identification, you know, we're looking for specimen data elements, where we're looking for final diagnosis, a gross description, the type of biopsy, if it's a primary or metastatic cancer, and also matching these tumor specimens to a normal specimen, to their normal specimen, so saliva, buccal, and blood samples. And this alone are already two separate systems. Some clinical data elements that we look for clinical data abstraction: demographics, clinical staging, comorbidities, family history, treatments, treatment medication. These things are ongoing, and they are refreshed in the electronic health record system. They are refreshed into the EDW. So what better way to do it than really integrate it all up into LabKey, right? LabKey has the ability to look into external schemas, and on top of that, ETL the data from those schemas into the platform. Now, there's no perfect query. I don't think there is ever a perfect query. And it's important that to be flexible in an environment of research where there are multiple research applications. The column names change, the values for consent change. You really have to iterate on these queries. And I come from a product management background. I used to work in startup, and some of the things I learned was to iterate and to deploy a good code. So we really develop queries on looking at the different database systems. We test them, and we have our clinical research coordinators who are looking at the front end of Epic to make sure that those values match. Once they're good, we push these queries into our Bitbucket, where we hold it's like a GitHub repository, and we improve upon these data elements and continue on this cycle for these queries so that LabKey is getting the right data. LabKey is bringing the data to the end users so that they're not wasting their time. And it'd be a shame if I'd never showed an Excel document in my PowerPoint presentation. So here's an operational piece. We have the blue, in the blue we have the data elements, and then in the red we have the statuses on these data elements. So this would be like a abstractor or a gender or race, and then these are the statuses of how we pull these queries, how we pull these data elements. And then on the right side, we have the multiple disparate data sources. So as we expect, the electronic health records has a vital status. The clinical trial management systems have a vital status. Which one do we choose? And this is something that you learn as you go. You understand the data at your research institution so that you can improve your queries and improve the data within LabKey. So we have, we have these pieces that define our business logic in the queries. And here's a view of how we identify patients. We push Encore into LabKey, where we can filter on the data for clinical research coordinators to filter the data and then determine which patients are eligible for the ORIEN project. They can also annotate. We can identify specimens from pushing Epic Pathology Reports and CoPath, which I don't have here, into LabKey. Now, there's no PHI, so no one kill me here. But this is a pathology report in a human-readable format. We use the multi-line data type to import the data, and this is a paragraph, this is a section within the pathology report, and then here's another specimen within that pathology report. So this really helps the specimen coordinators from going into Epic and looking at each report. Now they have it in a tabular format and for all the patients within the ORIEN project. And then clinical data manual abstraction. And then in one of the meetings earlier, we were talking about incorporating LabKey into your institution, and someone had said, oh, we work in a REDCap environment, and we all laughed. But the question was, how do you get the scientists to break out of using REDCap? And I said, you don't have to. You really don't have to. Scientists, Bo also mentioned earlier, scientists want to work in scientist format and functions. So we really use LabKey as an integrator where we push the red cap pieces into LabKey and then join the clinical data from RedCap with the rest of the operations in the research. So to give an overall summary, here's a diagram that explains how LabKey works at ORIEN Informatics. We have the data sources on the left. We have electronic health records, pathology reports, some of the things that I've been saying, disease registries. They go into the EDW. And for abstraction or for curation of the data, we either manually abstract, we utilize the ETL function in LabKey, and also there's an NLP component that I will be talking about later. And getting it into the LabKey framework so that the users can share their links and share their views and share their queries within LabKey. So I think that, I think LabKey is really good for that workflow management piece where users, they have their own workflows. They want to join their data in a certain way, and no matter how many times you tell them to not do it that way, they will do it that way. And it works for them, and that's great. So we leave it like that. Outside of LabKey, we send the specimen to sequencing vendors. We send them to TGen and Hudson Alpha, and these are labs that really push the data into DNA Nexus. I've heard DNA Nexus mentioned a couple times today. And although LabKey doesn't, look directly at DNA Nexus, what it does look at are files. So we have a file watcher that looks at the metadata from DNA Nexus so that we can push those IDs, those linkages back into the system so that we can conduct our research operations. The genomic data is used on the HPCC at City of Hope and I2E. I2E is an engine, an NLP platform developed by Lingomatics, and we have that at City of Hope. It was a match made in heaven. LabKey had a piece where you can use Lingomatics to really run NLP on those data sets. And so that's what we did. I saw the business problem and I saw the research problem where specimen coordinators are looking through paragraphs of pathology reports, unstructured text, and what are they looking for? They're looking for nuggets of tumor size, of tumor diagnosis within these pathology reports. That's so time-consuming. Let's try to automate the process. Let's try to structure the unstructured. And here is a real screenshot of what we were working on. Again, no PHI, so I'm good here. Here is a pathology report from Epic that we have the final diagnosis and the gross description, and these are the hits that came from the I2E platform. And LabKey did a great job of having an abstraction user interface that really compares the values of the NLP engines and abstractors. And so we developed a whole plan around this. We had multiple phases where we would pull the documents using SQL. We would index them and query them on the NLP platform. We would output those results from the I2E platform into LabKey, where manual abstractors can abstract and validate if these NLP queries really worked. And then we would review them, and the results we would discuss as a group with clinical research coordinators and myself and the data analysts. We would look at if those results really worked for the NLP engine and the pathology reports. And then if they didn't, then we'll revamp the queries. But if they did, then we'll output it to a data set and push it back into the research operations. And so we really have a proof of concept done. But, big but here. if anyone knows, when you work in a large institution and you have limited resources and you try to develop something and you gain momentum, you have a use case, pathology reports. You're trying to structure those pathology reports. You have a great use case that can really save a lot of time, and you gain momentum in developing the platform, the NLP piece. You gain the people, and you have the project manager on board. You have the data analyst on board, and your leadership is on board. You develop a proof of concept, but due to priorities that come by, new platforms, new pieces, new people, the momentum stops. And the scariest thing is it's stuck in production. So we have proof of concept. It never saw the light of day. And with the proof of concept, you're really stuck in no man's land. You have a great product. No one knows about it. No one really wants to know about it except yourself. And it just bugs you. It just bugs you. So because of that, I had to draw a dotted line here. I had to really draw a dotted line, and that tool is there. Once I find a use case again, I'm going to kick that momentum and then gather the people together in order to get things going. And that's most institutions. So good segue to lessons learned in some of our future plans. So what did we learn? We learned that you really have to solve the data problems first. I don't know about you guys, but in my world, platforms come and everyone's like, use it. And you're like, oh no, this again. And the problem is people are trying to apply software to solving their data problems. That's not how it works. Every institution works differently. Your data looks differently. You got to understand the data first before you apply any technology to it. LabKey, NLP, the list goes on and on. Also, build opportunistically. In the momentum that did get going, it was nice to know that you had a use case. You had some researchers who are interested in your project in mind, and don't let that go. You have to solve it right then and there. You have to build opportunistically to show them that, to materialize that vision that you had. And if you don't, they're going to look elsewhere. And manage expectations. Be careful when you use, the words precision medicine, NLP, and artificial intelligence, because now people are thinking auto magic, right? They're thinking magic. They're thinking anything is possible. And when you show them that, it's not really exactly what their expectations are, well, they're going to shoot you down. They're going to shoot you down. There's a lot of pain in that. You hear the emotion. Got a little sad there. Anyways, pulling back into the user conference, you got to train your users. Data looks raw from EHRs. Data looks raw in SQL Server. Your users are not going to understand the difference between vital underscore status and vital no space status. So make sure you train your users and tell them, okay, this vital status means this, and this column means this. So make sure you really train your users. And some future plans, well, now that we have all this genomic data, this clinical data, we are hitting critical mass where we need to disseminate this. We need users who log into our LabKey instance through an LDAP to automatically look at the data they're allowed to look at, because we don't want to share too much protected health information amongst the wrong people. So we're trying to sync LabKey to IRB access systems, where if a person has consented, or is part of a protocol, they're able to see all the data for their patients that have consented to the same IRB. And some exciting projects, we're working with precision medicine, precision imaging, and data science, where we utilize our APIs to link their machine learning algorithms to LabKey datasets. We are working towards running genomic pipelines through LabKey, and that doesn't mean holding the pipelines, hard code the pipelines in LabKey. What that means is it's calling out to DNA Nexus and putting it in one place where researchers only have to go to LabKey in order to run their research. And then development, we're looking into revamping the user interface and making it a better experience for their research. Future plans, well, some of the things that stop my momentum, just kidding. LabVantage, we have new pieces that come in. We have DNA Nexus, we have disease registries, and there's a lot of platforms that are coming in, but really it's okay because we really understand the data and we really understand what LabKey is looking at. So LabKey for us is really a front door for researchers to look at their information and gain a sense of what they're working with. I want to spend this time to thank the ORIEN team, the ORIEN operations team. They've done an awesome job in running our research. And I want to acknowledge some of the leaders at City of Hope, some of the developers, and some of the guys here at LabKey who have been extremely awesome, like Bernie and John and Adam, Carl and Brad. You guys have been really awesome, so thank you. And lastly, thank you guys for, thank you LabKey for letting me have the opportunity to speak here, and thank you guys for listening.